I'm Julie Thompson, Executive Director of pac-tv, and today we're hosting a COVID-19 update for the town of Kingston. We will hold these forums every Tuesday and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Watch in Kingston on Comcast Channel 15 and Verizon Channel 42, or watch online on our streaming channel by visiting pac-tv.org/live. To ask questions during the forum, email them to kingstoninfo@pac-tv.org. For the forum replay schedule and additional Kingston meeting coverage, please visit pac-tv.org/Kingston. Today's participants, as always, will include Josh Warren, who's the chair of the Board of Selectmen in Kingston. We welcome Michael Scavera, who is a sergeant with the Kingston Police Department, Eric Greer from the Restoration Community Church in Kingston, and we welcome back Paula Rossi-Clapp, Director of Elder Affairs. Josh, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Julie. Again, I just want to thank everybody at pac-tv. We're now about 1 month into these twice weekly COVID-19 updates. And I know it's a tremendous effort from their end to bring in staff to support these, and certainly a lot of coordination with all of their towns. Sergeant Scavara, Paula, Eric, thank you guys for joining us as well. Yesterday afternoon, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health announced that there were 2,466 positive cases of COVID-19 in Plymouth County. That represented an increase from 158 the previous day. And as of 5 p.m. yesterday, the Visiting Nurses Association had reported there were 20 confirmed positive cases of COVID-19 in the town of Kingston, which was an increase of 1 from the previous day. Just a quick reminder before we hop over to ask Paula some questions. Any families that are currently enrolled in the Grab and Go Lunch program through the Silver Lake Regional School District, next week would have been what otherwise would have been scheduled as spring break, because they will not be providing lunches from April 20th through the 24th. Later today, they'll be providing 5 meals per child. On April 27th, the Grab and Go Lunch program will resume normal service of 2 meals per child on Mondays, Wednesdays, and 1 meal on Fridays. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that information out there. And with that, I'm going to hop over to you, Paula. Can you just give us a quick update on how things are going over at the Council on Aging?
Sure. So the staff spirits are high. We are enjoying ourselves despite what's going on. Staff's on site as well as remote, and we continue to provide whatever needs the seniors have when they call in and when we call them to do wellness checks. So we're just staying busy as ever. We're just finding new creative ways to solve each problem or a question that arises.
Great. And just quick, it's unique that you guys are still fully staffed and in the building, right?
That's correct. We have learned how to do the new social norm, and above all, protect ourselves. And then when we go out into the community, so despite really this change, we are running on full staff on all levels, and we haven't skipped a beat here in Kingston.
That's great. So earlier this week, you had shared that there was another round of special meals for Kingston seniors that were going out. Can you just tell us a little bit about the special meals program and how that plays into the Council on Aging's overall communication effort?
Yes, we are using this as an outreach tool. So each week we are providing a special home cooked meal. We used to have on site our Thursday meals that we would cook on site, and we would cater to up to anywhere from 80 to 100 people. Unfortunately, we had to change that a little bit and become a delivery service. So now we're providing once a week meal to seniors. We're calling different seniors each week so that we can reach out to as many as possible. We're encouraging them to get onto the Old Colony Elder Services Meals on Wheels program, even if it's just temporary during this time, because grocery shopping is becoming difficult for many. But we are providing this extra meal once a week just to get out there and see people. We have reached over 250 different seniors over the course of the 4 weeks that we've been doing this. So it's really a great tool to help enhance assessments for the needs of the seniors.
And just to be clear, that's over 250 special meals that have been delivered.
Yes, yes, and people are very excited to get them. We have had, as we've talked before, Little Carmen's Restaurant donated two sets of meals, and now we have our local police officer, Officer Michael Anatra, who is now our chef, and he brings in his helpers, which includes some firefighters. We had. Uh, Cole Pike yesterday was a firefighter, and Captain Bartlett yesterday was Michael's helpers, and they put out over 96 meals. But we were able to deliver 60 meals to individual seniors and provide food for the firehouse and the police station, as well as some staff in the townhouse.
That's great. And can you just tell us a little bit more about other communication efforts that you're making right now to reach Kingston seniors?
So we sent out our second mass mailing letter. It went out on Tuesday. So if people haven't received it, they will have received it by this weekend. We've done two mass mailings over the course of these 4 to 5 weeks, and we are on Facebook, we're on our webpage, we're making calls every single day. We talk to over 50 seniors every day personally. I've done a few robocalls, but what we're finding is the phone calls is working the best, and the letters. And I am confident that every single senior in the town of Kingston has been communicated with and touched base with by some form or another of communication between the letters and phone calls and media outlets.
That's great. That's great. Can you tell us? I know you have an ongoing project right now at the COA where you're gathering cards and drawings and general messages of hope that get delivered to Kingston seniors. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and what folks can
Yes.
do if they want to participate?
Yes, it's fantastic. People are dropping off packages of letters and drawings from their children. We had a woman that actually some hand stitched magnets of inspirational little messages and pictures, and we were able to provide in the meals yesterday that everyone received a little card of well wishes, or a poem, or one of these magnets, and they went in with the lunches, and we're going to be doing that with every type of delivery to Meals on Wheels or our special lunches. So I encourage people to break out their writing tools, ask their grandkids, ask their children to supply the seniors with some cards and letters of inspiration and hope, and just fun pictures, and we're passing them along to the seniors.
Great. And if somebody does that and they want to drop them off, what's the best way to get them to you?
We have a plastic container outside on the front entranceway, and they're able to just put them in that box, and then we're able to take it inside and properly make sure that we sanitize everything before it gets passed on to the seniors. So, and I know your son did some great artwork that we passed along in yesterday's lunches. So please thank him for that.
I will. I will. So you also reported this week that Meals on Wheels participation has increased. How's that program grown over the last 4 weeks? And if anybody at home is watching that wants to take advantage of Meals on Wheels, what should they do?
Yes, our numbers actually doubled since we closed the doors back on March 13th to the public. Our Meals on Wheels numbers have doubled to date. So people are starting to see, as time goes on, grocery shopping becomes a little more difficult. This is a guaranteed one meal a day. Everyone qualifies. There is an intake process and a few questions that need to be answered in order to provide the nutrition information and any limitations for special needs. But I encourage everybody to call Old Colony Elder Services, get the intake department, and get signed up for the Meals on Wheels program. And I don't have the tech savvy support, and I know Julie's helped me out in the past. I hope this isn't coming out backwards. But this is the Old Colony Elder Services Meals on Wheels. It might be backwards. I don't know.
It's not.
But call the center and we will give you the number if you don't have it.
Great, great. One more question for you, and it's really exciting news. Just this morning, you learned that you were awarded a grant from EverSource. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And Julie, do you mind pulling that slide up?
Yep, here we go.
All right, that is correct. I am happy to announce that the Friends of the Kingston Council on Aging were awarded today a grant from EverSource. And the Friends of the Council on Aging are planning to put on some special events or event to help the seniors come back into the social atmosphere of the center. This will be in the future, and I'm not going to steal their thunder for what surprises will happen, but they will use this grant that EverSource has graciously offered. And they are going to take advantage of that and provide the seniors with some fun events that they can look forward to in the near future.
Great, great. And I just want to read the text that EverSource shared this morning. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get the graphic up, but this is from Ryan Earl, who is the Community Relations and Economic Development representative for our district. He said, "I'm excited to share that EverSource has announced their support to the Friends of the Kingston Council on Aging with a contribution in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. EverSource is committed to supporting our community during this difficult time and also recognizes the important contributions that the council makes to those in need. We value the work of the Friends of the Kingston Council on Aging, especially during this pandemic, and we wish them the very best for continued success." So, I'm really excited to see what the Friends are going to do with that money. I'm really excited for what that means for all the seniors that rely on the council, and I'm thrilled. So once this passes, we'll be able to see what you guys will do with all that money.
It is exciting, and I know they're going to come up with some great ideas. I just want to mention one more thing. We are putting together our May newsletter, and what people are used to seeing in the newsletter are, the series of events, the calendars. We're doing something a little bit different this month, and we're using it as a resource guide. So we are going to send them out to the people that are normally on our mailing list, but I'm asking people if they could call in if they want to receive this special newsletter that's being sent out. We are limited. We only have 1,000, so we're limited to how many we can mail. But please call in if you don't normally receive the newsletter and you'd like to receive this special one. It's got a lot of great information. It's got notes from the staff and updates. So just to let people know, call in if you don't normally receive it.
Great. Thanks, Paula. Eric, we're going to shift gears a little bit and head over to you. So for those Kingston residents who haven't had the chance to meet you, I know you wear a couple of different hats in town. Can you just take a couple moments to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me today. So I'm Eric Greer. I'm the pastor at Restoration Community Church. And then I also get the opportunity to serve the Kingston Fire Department as their chaplain and a call firefighter there. And then I teach a little bit at Eastern Nazarene in their marriage and family therapy program. So I do some counseling as well. But my family and I have lived here 7 years, and we helped plant a church here in town. It meets at the old Baptist church across the street from the funeral home on Main Street. And we've been meeting there 3 years and some change.
And can you just briefly tell us how COVID-19 has impacted your congregation and how you've had to adapt operations in light of the pandemic?
Sure. Well, in a positive way, I appreciate, Paula just mentioning that, just talking positively about how we have to adapt in different times. But I think it's kind of spotlighted our core values because we're about building relationships and bettering our community here. And so when we planted the church here in Kingston, we came with a calling, if you will, to emphasize the missional nature of the church. And I know that sounds churchy, but a missional community of people, for instance, sees themselves as reflecting the ministry of Jesus by being a part of the life and the culture of the community around them. And so we want to engage people that way in an authentic way, where they can already identify where we believe God's at work. So, it's about being, going and being more than, inviting people to a production or an event on the weekends. I don't mean to minimize Sunday worship, but it's not as so much about come and see as it is go and be. And so you can tell I'm not a great speaker or anything. We're not going to produce the quality of Oprah or Ed Sheeran or Rihanna, and that sidelines a lot of people. But if you're inviting people into service in the community and sharing a countercultural message about Jesus crossing ethnic and gender and economic and political barriers just to help other people, that's missional. And then everybody's got a calling, like serving the elderly, administering the affairs of the community, protecting and serving, and as a police officer, bringing justice. Everybody's gift is an act of worship and service. And so, we've set that as our DNA very early on. And so I think our little church gets that, the people feel more empowered, that we're still a church even when we're not gathered traditionally. And of course, we meet by Zoom during the week and do Bible studies, and I still preach a sermon on Sundays, and we live stream that. But for the most part, our folks are involved in like helping our food pantry or helping other people in the community with safe distance in mind. So if you're not directing a bunch of money to pay staff or pay debt, you can use it to, help other people, which is what we think Jesus is about.
And I'm glad you said that you guys aren't so much come and see and more go and be, because I think that goes right in line with the food pantry that you operate. And can you just tell us about the Board of Health certified food pantry that you operate out of the church?
Yeah, so the town Board of Health, every year we're subject to an annual inspection by the Board of Health. They have certain stipulations about not just how you store food, but certainly we abide by all the regulations that the community area food bank puts in place as well. And so we have a safe space. We have a freezer for meats, shelf stable items, some hygiene things, and so we do that in concert with the Board of Health. They check us out each year and make sure we're doing that well. And now even, when somebody comes for help, we help people from any community with any income bracket or whatever. If somebody has a request, we're there and available. But we make sure all the doors are open so they don't have to touch anything as they come in and out of the building. Very minimal contact going on. In fact, there's a lot less contact than were you to go to, Stop and Shop, for instance. So we're, making sure that that's a safe transaction and helping households out with, say, 3 to 4 days worth of groceries.
And how has COVID-19 impacted the food pantry? Are you getting more requests for support? Are you receiving more donations, less donations?
Both of those things have happened. So before this pandemic, we're a small church, and we may have helped 2 to 3 households a week. And some of those were not always unique. I mean, sometimes we'd help the same household once a month or something like that. But we weren't as well known in the community because we're new. But since the stay-at-home order began, we've seen like that triple because some of the other community food pantries are staffed by elderly volunteers. And so they had to close. Not all of them, but some of them have. And so there's been a real pressure to provide assistance. But we've also seen, an outpouring of assistance from our church. And then just friends that we have in the community who know what we're doing. They've been, coming by and dropping off food items for us to give away. We even have 2-ply toilet paper that we give away, so, hey. But anyway, not that cheap stuff, right? So we're able to help out in a small way. And then we've even been talking to the manager at Stop and Shop about being able to provide some kind of a financial gift to all their frontline employees and just to say thank you, because a lot of service industry people who are out of work are actually making a little bit more on unemployment than the good folks who are serving our community right now in grocery stores and stuff. So they've partnered with us before. So Stop and Shop has to let us do food drives in front of their store. We want to continue to, bless them and thank them. So.
And if anybody at home wants to make a donation to the food pantry or wants to take advantage of services from the food pantry, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Okay, well, Paula had me going there, so I printed this out on the fly. Yeah, so thank you. You're smart. I'm just, So this is our website, rcckingston.org, and there's a Give Now button there. You could give online financially, or that's our phone number. It rings to my cell phone, and you could call it or text it. We can set up a time to drop off items. We don't do fresh foods. We do have a garden that we grow in the summer where we give fresh organic vegetables straight out of the garden to our visitors, but typically it's shelf stable items, and then things that can be frozen in our that we give away. So 781-361-9108, or check our website. Thanks.
Eric, one last question. Going into the weekend, is there any message of hope that you want to share with the community?
Yeah. Well, in a time like this, you're talking to a pastor, and so I certainly am a big God fan. But here's something I found that's helpful to me. People are trying to find God. Some people are in times like this, and maybe asking about that. And it's sometimes helpful to add an O to the word God, as in good. And looking for God can be elusive, but looking for the good is concrete. It's here, it's now, it's undeniable. And when we start looking at things this way, I see good arising, I see good being done in so many places throughout this nation and across the world, with scientists working for a vaccine, or healthcare workers giving aid, or people trained to deal with emotions who are contributing informed information, ethical care, our stores and restaurants delivering food. I mean, we could go on and on. The faith community is delivering streaming services and encouragement. So we know of so many examples of good being done. And to me, if God is anything at all, God is at work in all creation. And in my view, no human is ever left out. And that God loves, and God loves to the extreme edges of our world. And so looking for good brings us all closer to each other, closer to our loving our neighbor, and closer to the God of comfort. So look for good.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Sergeant Scavara, I'm going to hop over to you. I think I recognize that building. Are you upstairs at the police station?
I am. Yep. I'm upstairs right now.
Great. So for any viewers at home who haven't met you, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how long you've been with the Kingston Police Department?
Sure. So I've been on for about 7 years. Prior to the police department, I was in the military. Grew up in the area before that. Currently, within the police department, I serve as a sergeant detective, which my primary job function, investigating serious felony crimes, sex offenses, drug offenses, violent crimes, and also as the court prosecutor for the department. So I work with the courts, district attorneys, judges, defense attorneys to litigate criminal cases that the department submits to Plymouth District Court. Then a few other duties like firearms instructor, taser instructor, a couple hats there. But also community outreach, Plymouth County outreach, if you've heard of it, Plymouth Hub, just different programs to try to reach out to the community and find ways to get people so that they don't have to deal with the criminal system, just kind of intervene ahead of that.
Great. So COVID-19 has forced all of us to adapt how we get through our days. How's COVID-19 changed daily operations at the Kingston Police Department? And what infection control protocols have you guys put in place at the station?
Sure. So most importantly, station's still open 24/7, 365. If someone has to come to the station, go right ahead. But we ask that you call instead. There's a lot of things we can handle over the phone instead of meeting in person. And dispatchers and officers can discuss that with you if you do call. But again, obviously, if you have to come in, stop on in. You might see officers choose to social distance from you, obviously. They might be wearing masks, even in the building. Within the building, there's a lot of use of cleaning chemicals, of Lysol wipes, uh, masks, gloves. Officers are cleaning their cruisers, cleaning their workspaces, and that's going on daily. You're seeing, typically there may be 2 officers in the report room, but we're trying to reduce that to 1 officer in the report room. Just different ways to mitigate not just exposure to the public, but also to each other.
Great, thank you. And Julie, I don't know if we're going to have any luck with the images that Sergeant Scovara shared, but I think he sent a few over. One of a cruiser being disinfected, and another of officers doing roll call. If it's possible to pull those up, can we just share those as well while we chat?
They're coming up right now.
Great, thanks. So my next question, has the Kingston Police Department had to take on any additional roles or responsibilities during the public health crisis?
Sure, yeah. So as you may know, the courts are essentially closed. The House of Correction has also changed the way they do some things, limited in what circumstances they take prisoners in. So in those instances, the police department taking on additional roles. For instance, in the past, we may have offered someone, hey, go down to Plymouth District Court if you want a restraining order. Well, they can't go down to Plymouth District Court right now. There are those matters being heard over the phone, but we're facilitating that more often now. So we're helping them contact the court. Sometimes we're filling out the paperwork for them, whereas previously someone would have been available at the court to do that for them. Obviously, that takes our officers time, and now there's close contact taking place with officers to be able to do that. And sometimes orders are being extended now by the court. So an order that may have expired or something else, that some other court action that was supposed to happen, the court's sending paperwork where previously someone may have been in the court and become aware of that, but because they're not now, our officers have to go out, find these individuals, serve them with that paperwork. Again, just occurring more often than it would have before. Also, relative to custodies, arrests, for instance, we made an arrest on a Friday for a pretty serious crime. Normally, that individual, because the court chose to hold him in custody on high bail, that individual would have been transported to the House of Correction. We're not able to do that right now prior to arraignment, so the police department had to maintain custody of that individual. So we had to assign prisoner watches all weekend until he was arraigned on Monday. And then come arraignment on Monday, again, the individual can't go to the courthouse. So myself and others have to facilitate conference calls with judges, district attorneys, defense attorneys to allow that individual to be heard in front of the court audibly, and also to speak with his attorney, all while arraigning him in the back of the police station. And then, there's other things besides just the court and the criminal aspect. There's, for instance, some of those community outreach programs I talked about, Plymouth County Outreach, the Plymouth Hub. People call the police station because sometimes they don't know who else to call for issues in their families, maybe drug addiction issues, suicidal issues, where the police department may use normally these drug addiction recovery coaches to assist, or these other assets that frankly can't right now, or they're only making phone calls. So our officers are going out, finding these individuals, offering these services, becoming the first contact instead of having these recovery coaches or counselors as the first contact, offering phone numbers. But of course, a lot of times in those times of high stress, they want to talk to someone face to face, and we become that face. And also, as an example, schools are closed, right? But the issues that our school resource officer deals with aren't done. So there's still online social media harassment issues similar to that, where our SRO, who's been reassigned to patrol, is now, again, instead of just calling a student down to his office, has to go to these homes or find contact numbers, talk to these individuals to mitigate some of these issues before they become crimes that result in criminal intervention. And of course, we have a regional school. So the issues are outside of just Kingston. So you deal with the jurisdictional issues now instead of the students just being in the school. And of course, even when all this is over, we anticipate an uptick because court motions, trials, training for officers, all that type of stuff is going to come to a head all at once. Once the social distancing comes to an end, we're going to end up having to do all those responsibilities for this time frame that should have been happening now, plus the additional uptick of people getting antsy and going out and doing things, especially teenagers, that might get them in trouble. So we'll have to anticipate all that uptick as this comes to an end as well.
Sounds like you guys have your hands full.
Yeah, we do, but we're handling it well so far.
What would you say is the hardest part of balancing public safety and public health right now?
Well, I would say to some degree, public safety is public health, right? And public health is public safety. It's that risk reward balance that we have to deal with. For instance, if a car is broken into and there's someone breaking into that car right now, we're going to intervene. We're going to try to use protective measures, but we're going to intervene. And if a crime is being committed, we'll act on that. But let's say someone's credit card was fraudulently charged 3 days, we can handle with a phone, right? There's no reason for us to go see that victim, talk face to face, and possibly expose them or them possibly expose us. But it's the gray area calls where there's a question of balancing that health versus the physical contact of police being necessary. So for instance, maybe a car was broken into overnight and the victim finds that the next morning, money was stolen. Maybe the victim's sick, maybe the victim's not sick. Maybe they don't know that they're sick. And do the police go to that? Do we collect evidence and possibly expose someone? If there is evidence, would the victim even know if there's fingerprints or not? So do we need to go to determine it? And do we expose them to us and us to them for a past property crime that maybe there's no solving at that time, and just essentially create an additional exposure for no real answer, no real reason? Or do we not go, and then maybe that individual starts a spree of breaking into several cars because we missed evidence? So all those types of gray area calls are the hardest that we have to balance right now. And those are just a base, each case, they're judging it. The sergeants on duty are judging whether or not to send an officer, whether or not we think it actually makes sense to speak with an individual in person to try to prevent further crime, or is it something we can deal with over the phone and go from there?
So in larger cities, we've seen COVID-19 ravage police departments. In early April, it was reported that 60 members of the Chicago PD tested positive for COVID-19. And on one day, 800 Chicago police employees called out sick. In Detroit, 20% of the officers were self-quarantined in early April after 76 tested positive. What's Kingston doing to prepare for officers calling out or for being quarantined? How are you guys dealing with all the what-if scenarios?
Sure. So that's actually been a pretty extensive conversation that's taken place here. Obviously, the what-ifs are endless. Luckily, right now, training, court, other assignments can canceled, obviously. A lot of officers that maybe had vacations planned no longer do because of travel restrictions. So all of our staff is available. There has been conversation relative to, what staffing levels we should maintain. Like we talked about earlier with prisoner watches and things like that, you need to have officers available for that. But should officers start calling out, the conversations have happened relative to extending shifts, changing shift hours, possibly forcing guys into overtime. And again, it'll all be based on, what is our call volume? How many officers do we need present? And what is the possible risk of exposure? So if you're extending shifts for officers, maybe you sometimes would have fewer officers on. You have enough to respond to these emergency type calls because of, if 20% of the staff goes out, you still need guys here. And it's just a matter of extending shifts and moving people around to be able to do that.
And what's the department's plan for an officer if they're exposed to COVID-19? What's the procedure look like for that individual officer?
Sure. So for the actual officer, let's say they're exposed on duty, and we know that the individual they were exposed to has tested positive for COVID-19. The officer in that circumstance would not be allowed back into the police station because we don't want to cross-contaminate everybody else. We don't want to cross-contaminate the station itself and have to close down the station. That would obviously affect operations. And also, the officer would, fill out some paperwork, likely go get a COVID test. And then we have to determine, what are we going to do with this officer? Because if we know he was just exposed and he possibly could end up having COVID-19, we don't want to expose him to his family members, and maybe he has someone that's a high risk at his house. So making arrangements to work with that officer to see what's appropriate living quarters in the interim while we determine whether or not he needs to remain out until his test comes back, or maybe we have to just keep him out for a few days till he would test positive, and just working with the officer to make sure that he's not going to expose anybody else. And obviously, these are unprecedented times for us as well. It's just one more reason officers are concerned they literally might not be able to go home to their families because they might get exposed instead of all the other reasons we might not get to go home. So the mental health long term is something that we're ensuring there's resources available for the officers as well.
And one last question to you before we turn it over to Julie for any questions that have come in. Kingston Police are now on Facebook. What sort of information do you guys communicate through that platform? And how can residents find you on Facebook?
Sure. So primarily, a lot of community policing type stuff we plan on throwing out there, showing what we're doing in the community. Obviously, that's tough right now. Things of public interest, large scale incidents, traffic advisories, town information, things that other departments are doing, really anything that the individuals might find important relative to the police department. And then you can find us on Facebook. You can literally do facebook.com/kingstonpolice.org, or just type in Kingston, Massachusetts Police Department. You'll see us. You'll see our patch.
Great. Thank you. Julie, I'm just going to hand it over to you for any questions that have come in.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And before we do that, I just wanted to put up on the screen the Kingston website, if we could. Because anything you need to know this is just really, really wonderful, is right here, right on your main page. And then if you go to the bottom of the main page and you click on the COVID-19 updates, you'll be brought to another page where more information and resources are listed. It's just a great, great resource. So I strongly suggest you visit that if you need to. We did have
that address, just briefly, is www.kingstonmass.org.
Yes, thank you. Yep, you're right. It absolutely is. We do have one question. On last evening, the president basically outlined a three-tiered approach for a program that would be a gradual reopening of the country based on different states and different regions. And is there a point in time where Kingston is going to address that idea? Or are we in a wait and see hold pattern? Go ahead, Josh.
So I certainly can't speak on behalf of the Board of Selectmen or the emergency management team. Sorry, but I think I think we're probably all in agreement that there is no one size fits all approach for any state or all states. I think, obviously, New York's been hit harder than Boston. New Orleans has been hit harder than Boston. As you look at cities, as you look at states, I think it's probably going to fall to the governors to make decisions on when they feel it's safe to reopen businesses, when they feel it's safe to send students back to school. At least at the local level, we have started to have those conversations within the emergency management team. As Paula said earlier on, they made the decision to close the Kingston Council on Aging to the public on March 13th. I believe the decision to close the Kingston Public Library to the public happened a few days after that. Kingston was ahead of the curve in closing a lot of public buildings, in closing a lot of public parks and playgrounds. And I think our numbers really bear that out. I mean, we have been very fortunate that we have not seen COVID-19 run rampant through the town of Kingston. Of the 20 confirmed positive cases, a majority of those are within the same facility. And I think that really speaks to the town's proactive approach at closing things down, at minimizing the opportunity for COVID-19 to be transmitted from town employees to residents, from residents to town employees, from residents to residents. I think at the local level, when we receive further guidance from the state and Governor Baker, we'll probably have to have a discussion about whether or not we're going to have a similar approach on reopening buildings and reopening playgrounds and parks and public spaces. Do we want to fall in line with what the state is doing, or do we think that we need an additional buffer of a week or 2 weeks before we can confidently open those buildings again? Residents have done a tremendous job of vigilantly washing their hands, of wearing face masks and gloves when they go grocery shopping, of social distancing. I think, that, and I said this before, that the town made difficult decisions early on to close public spaces. The residents have just done a great job of following the guidance that's been given from the state and federal government in terms of, again, socially distancing and taking the proper precautions for themselves and their community. I would hate to see us jump the gun and get back into the swing of things too early and see a spike in the cases in Kingston or Plymouth County. But again, that discussion will need to happen, among the emergency management team, the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen. And, I think we'll be having those discussions in the near future. But at this point, we're certainly looking to the Baker-Polito administration for further guidance as to when they feel it will be safe to reopen businesses, to send our students back to school, and to get back to life as we knew it.
Right. Thank you. That was very well put. So in closing today, are there any final words from Michael? Let's start with you. Michael Scavera, any final words or any final inspirations to give the people out there?
Sure. I'd just like to say, obviously, COVID-19 is changing the way we're doing things, but we're definitely still here. No matter what, you need us, call 911. We're going to come. You might see a mask on our face, you might see gloves on our hands, but we're going to come. We're still here 24/7, 365, so nobody needs to worry about that.
Thank you so much. And if you notice that Michael breaks up a tiny bit, it's bandwidth. There's so much bandwidth, especially being used at a police department, that sometimes the sound goes out a little bit or the video isn't quite as crisp, but that's because the police department is very busy. Eric Greer, final words.
Yeah, well, I am very grateful to be a part of this conversation, and I think that's an important piece of recovery and mitigation is involving the faith community, and we're here and we're available, and we're just glad to be of service in any way we can. So I thank you guys for inviting me along today, and God bless.
Thank you so much. And Paula Rossi-Clapp, final words?
I echo everyone else the same as far as the Kingston community and the seniors in particular. We miss you. We look forward to seeing you all. But in the meantime, we're still here, and call us. We're trying to, reach out to every single one of you, and we'd love to talk to you every day. But please reach out to us. We're trying to reach out to you, and be safe. And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And Josh, as you mentioned, the governor is on every day now, and he's on this afternoon also. Final words to your people out there in Kingston?
Sure. First, I'd just like to thank Eric, Paula, and Sergeant Scavera. Sergeant Scavera, please extend our thanks to everybody at the police station. We certainly hear a lot about what our first responders are doing during a time like this, and today you really illustrated the amount of work that's happening at the Kingston Police Station. So please extend our thanks to everybody that you work with, dispatchers, officers. To the residents of Kingston, I just want to thank you all again. I mean, you look at the numbers that Plymouth County is reporting every single day, and more often than not, they're increasing by 100 or more. The fact that Kingston's numbers remain so low, I think, is a true testament to how seriously residents are taking this, how seriously local government is taking this. And I just really want to commend everybody for doing their part. It's a tremendous, tremendous amount of individual responsibility that's needed right now. It's washing your hands, it's coughing and sneezing into your elbow, it's wearing face masks, gloves, social distancing, all of the things that we've talked about ad nauseum for the last several weeks. You're doing it. It shows. We're grateful. Your neighbors are grateful. Please continue doing that. I'd like to think that soon we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's yet to be seen. So from now through whenever we get through this, continue what you're doing. Watch out for your neighbors and take care of yourselves.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. If you'll notice, there's a date on the screen, and we will date stamp every time we do one of these because information changes on a daily basis. And it's good to know that the people that are running the town of Kingston and all the ancillary people that we have on that give different perspectives of what's going on in the town. They will be here on a regular basis on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:30. Come into pac-tv to join Josh and his guests. So please have a good weekend. Social distance, wash your hands, stay positive, and we will see you next week.